Okay, so one of the key things I want to talk to you about today is what we call early extension or loss of posture during the golf swing. It's a common cause that I see quite a lot of golfers do, especially amateurs, but also sneaky good players do it as well. And we're going to talk about what it is, where it comes from, and also how to fix it. Come on, let's go do this now. Early extension, what is it? Okay, and it's a common thing that I see quite a lot of amateurs do, and some low single figure players do it as well. And it's an area where they lose the ability to hold the angles that they set at address from their posture. All right, so what we tend to see them doing is that they tend to move the hips towards the ball, and they come out of posture, so they end up standing straighter, and they move the weight around a little bit in their feet as well. So it's really important you understand that. And we see a lot of golfers have a tendency to do this. They come into the ball quite well, but then they're standing up, okay? Or they're moving the hips towards the target. It could be both hips, or it could just be one hip that's moving towards the target as well. So it does come from a lot of, it can be quite a few things that can cause this, but I'm going to focus mainly in this video on maybe 3 things that can cause this, or 3 fixes for this. But first of all, you need to have an understanding of where it comes from. All right, so one of the first things that we tend to see, and one of the first things that get hits upon straight away on the World Wide Web and from other players, and it's correct to a certain degree, but they'll talk about that you have loss of mobility in the hips, and you've got no, you can't make the movement, and you're not strong enough to make that movement to be able to hold that posture for long. To a degree, I'd agree with that. But if I can make that movement and bend over, okay, and bend forward, or I can sit into a chair, which a lot of us tend to do, it's why we've got bad backs and so on. But if I can put myself into a chair, then I'm able to fix my early extension, all right? It's only when I can't get down and make a bend forward, or if I can't get into a chair very easily, that's when I would start to say that, yeah, you need to work on your hip flexors, your glutes, your back, and your legs, and try and stretch those out. I would say go a lot more for stretching if you're in that position where you can't do that. And very simple things, you can just grab a club and just try and touch your toes, and get used to getting bent forward and trying to stretch those hamstrings out. But generally it's a misconception as well. It's a lot of it can do with swing path. If the club is coming too far too much on a shallow angle, we then see people then try to fix that and come into the ball, or they can come in too steep an angle to then try and fix it to get it back on line. So they're generally the areas that we would tend to see people losing their posture. The first thing you need to understand though is the role of the hips and how they actually should effectively work in order to stop that motion, and what really should be going on. So this is where we're going to talk about the momentum of the club head and how you control that momentum with the body. I think there's a lot of golfers out there, they're being told they've got to swing back and they've got to fire with the right hip, got to fire with the right side to get more power into the shot, or they might conceive that's the right thing to do. And they lose that ability to hold that posture then, or there's a lot of rotational thoughts now, which again, each to their own, but rotational for me always threw my hands out a little bit. I couldn't get the right elbow to move into the right place, and I was always moving up into the ball. I was never staying away from the ball, and that was one of the areas that I used to struggle on as well. So let's talk about momentum. What's momentum got to do with the golf swing and early extension? Okay, well, momentum is really it's the forces that the clubs put on us when we swing the club around us, and what I've got to try to do is offset that momentum, okay, or the weights and the forces that are going around me. And one of the things that my body does, which will do pretty naturally for me as well, is it will offset that. Now, what do I mean by that? So as I swing this orange whip around me, which is quite heavy, as I swing it around me, my body is always working away from this weight, okay? So it's always working away from the momentum. All right, so as I'm pulling around here, my body is always shifting away from the club head. All right, so then as I pull it down towards the ball, or as I'm swinging it back around me from here, my body is actually pushing away from that momentum. Okay, so as the club head is coming through here, or as the weight is coming through here, I'm pushing away. I want to be pushing back away from that. Okay, that's going to help to stabilize me. It's going to help me to offset that momentum. All right, what we see a lot of golfers do is they have a tendency to go with the momentum, okay, which makes them then fall forward, all right? So they don't push away from it. The best way to sort of think about this is as a hammer thrower in the Olympics. You know, they actually have a great method of pushing away from that momentum, okay? And that's how it works. So as they take the weight back, it goes over the head, and as they come down, they push away. They're pushing into the ground to push away, and that's how they build and gather momentum, all right, and speed. All right, and they'll just keep going and going and going and going, and they're always working away from that. You could do the ball on a string and feel that as well. You can feel as the ball comes around in its arc, my hand moves in the opposite direction to that, so it works in an opposite force, okay, which then creates it to go round me in speed, but also it helps it to create it go round in a circle, all right, around my body. And if I don't offset the momentum, okay, of the golf swing itself, which is just a big circle around me, I'm going to end up disrupting that circle, if that makes sense, all right? So it's really getting a feeling of doing this. I can feel my hips pushing back away, which is really the key thought here. This is really going to be the whole premise of this video, is that the hips work away from the ball, not up and into the ball. Okay, and that's where you're getting this extension from. All right, so you've got to feel the pressure in your feet, pushing back. I can feel myself going back into my heels when I do this to a certain degree. I can feel myself working back. If I can time this momentum push away, I can actually create quite a bit of club head speed effortlessly as well, which is the key thing. It's all about efficiency of swing. So if you have something like this, great. Give it a swing, give that a try. Swing it around your body. Feel that momentum push away. Feel yourself push into the ground and push away from that club head, all right? Or if not, grab a driver with the head cover still on and try and swing that around. That will make it feel heavier, all right? Just get a feeling for that, because that's really going to be a premise of how to feel how the hips work correctly. But that pushing away is really, really important, because that's what's going to help cure this early extension, which is what this video is all about. Right, okay, so now that you've seen how momentum is active in the golf swing and how that works and how we're trying to offset that momentum of the club head, or the weight of the club head as it's coming down and through, and the forces and the momentum that it creates, gives you a better understanding of how you've got to try and now fix it, if that makes sense, all right? So how the hip should work. The hip should work moving in a, and I've done videos on this before, and I will do it again, on how the hips actually should feel, which is actually they should be working backwards, okay? So the right hip goes back on the backswing and the left hip goes back to meet it on the forward swing, all right? And a couple of the key things that we tend to see from golfers that tend to have an issue with this is, I think it comes a lot of it from down from the old athletic swings that we used to do, which was holding the right hip still, hold this right leg still, and that's going to give you the coil and the wind up that's needed to create distance. But what we found that used to happen here was, my center of my swing, it actually isn't my head or my sternum or anything like that. It's actually the base of my spine, okay? It's in the back here somewhere, right in the middle. All right, and I want to try and keep that centralized. And what we tend to see with golfers, what they were doing was, if they kept the right hip too still and stalled it, the left hip would want to come forward. And what was finding was the left hip would come further forward. And this moved my center of my spine forward, all right? And what would happen here is they would then move up into the left side, and then the right hip would then go forward of that. So what's happened is my left hip's come forward, and then my right hip's gone forward. I'm forever moving up and into the ball. All right, and that's where we currently see it. It can happen the other way around as well. The right hip will stay here, or the right hip will turn, and then the left hip stalls, and then the right hip goes forward with it as well. So they move up into the left side, brace this left leg, and then the right hip carries on, and then they get stuck, okay? And that's when they're coming into the ball, all right? So it's having a clear understanding of how the hips work. They work right hip back, left hip back, all right? They have an appearance of turning, okay, or being rotational. So right hip goes back, left hip goes back, but really it's just my joints working backwards and forwards, and that's the easiest way to cure this, all right? Yes, I'll be told that you should rotate, and people will put in comments, I'm sure, because they have done in the past, that, you know, that's wrong. Your hips turn, they rotate. They have a visual appearance of doing that, but I promise you, if you can try this of feeling the right hip go back and left hip go back to meet the right, that's really key, all right? So very important that you understand that and get a clear image or mental image of how that should work, all right? If I get my right hip to go up and into, if I keep my right hip still, go up and then forward, okay, I'm moving up into the ball. I can't stay away from it, and that's really important. If I'm moving up into it, I'm changing my whole swing, and it's really important you understand that. And let's try and work on it and get it gone. Okay, drill number 1. This is my favorite one. I'm not going to apologize about this one. I do this one all the time. I still do this one to the day, where what I'm going to do to fix this is we need to get our right hip back, okay? And then I want to get the feeling on the follow through that the right hip, where it's back here, it's gone back behind me here. I want the left hip to meet it. Okay, that's what I mean by meeting it. I want it to join it. I don't want the right hip to come forward at all. And the only way you're going to stop that is by keeping the right leg back. This is going to keep you in posture for longer. All right, so the way we're set up to this one, I've got a 7-iron in hand. I'm going to put my feet, I'm going to set up to it as normal. I'm going to put my right foot back, okay, so that my right foot is in line, or my right toe is in line with my left heel. Okay, I probably will change the ball position about a bit as well, so I can get a feeling of actually making contact on the ball. But the main goal here is got my right hip out the way. My right hip is gone. Okay, it's not in the way, it's not causing me to come forward and up out of posture. My right hip's gone back, I can feel it's gone deep. It feels a long way behind me. I feel like my cheek actually is behind my right heel. That's how far back I feel. And all I'm going to do from here is make a golf swing. I don't have to go full swing, and I don't have to go full speed to start with. All I'm going to try and get a feeling of here is, as I swing it, which is very hard to do, is to keep this right heel planted on the ground. Okay, I know it'll feel a bit armsy, okay, when you swing it, but the whole goal here is that I'm keeping the right hip back. And what you'll feel is that my rear end will stay away from the ball, and that's the whole goal here. I want you to get a feeling of how that feels, of how the right hip stays back. All right, and all you're going to do here is just make a very gentle swing. Okay, you don't have to go full speed, and what you'll see from this one here is my right hip will stay back out the way, okay, as I approach the ball. You can do this with every club, really. You can do this from a driver all the way down to your low irons. Just get a feeling of how that hip stays back, and that's one of the key things, and that's what I want you to try and get a feeling of when you do this. All right, so all you're going to do is swing back and swing through. All right, you'll get a feeling of that right hip staying back. You can see how my left hip's joined my right hip, but my hip has stayed back when I've hit the ball. I get a good solid contact on the ball, actually. I get a good strike, and you'll be amazed actually how far you'll hit the ball doing this. And it will sort of make you think, hang about, why have I been using my body so much when I'm hitting it, when I can actually just swing it like that and still get pretty much most of my distance out of it. So give that a try. So right foot back, make sure that it's in line with your left heel. Get it right back. This is going to help you to make a bigger turn, but it's also just going to help you to get the right hip, get the feeling of this being out the way, and actually as you're swinging down, it stays out the way as well. You can see how I've got all this space here where my right hip's not invading the golf swing itself and getting in the way of my hands, where I'm having to then evade the swing. You can see how I can stay right back here. I can approach into the ball at quite a powerful position here and make good solid contact and swing it on a reasonably good path as well. Give that a try. Right, okay, so once you've done that right foot back, well, obviously then you need to do left foot back, all right? So basically it's the same thing again. You're just going to do it in reverse. So once you've got the ball in front of you at the right sort of distance, what you're going to do here is take your left leg right back again. So now my left toe is now in line with my right heel, okay? And this is pushing my left hip back and out the way. Again, I want to get the feeling of the hips being out the way, all right? So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to stand to the ball. I'm going to make a golf swing. Again, don't have to go hard and fast. Don't have to swing it at full power. It's just about getting the feeling of the hip being out the way. All right. So I'm just going to swing back and swing through. All right. This will get me out the way. Also stops the left hip from going forward. All right. So that's really the key thing. So I'm going to swing back here and push that left hip even further back as I swing back on the follow through. Okay, so that's the feeling I want you to get. You'll be surprised how you can still make decent contact on the ball, again because you're using your hands and arms a lot more, but it's just getting that feeling of the right hip back, left hip back, and that's what we're trying to work on. All right, okay, so once you've done those two movements of feeling the right hip back and then the left hip back, okay, you then got to try and put that into a swing. So the best way that I did this, because I had extension problems, but I was misreading it as well, to be fair. All right, I've got a compressed L4 in my spine. It's quite low, and I've got lack of mobility in my back. But I found that if by using my joints correctly, it worked better for me. So right hip back, left hip back helps me with that spine issue that I have. All right. So once you do this, then all I'm going to feel in the swing now, again, I'm not going to make a full swing. I'm just going to feel the right hip go back, left hip back. That's all I want to focus on. Okay, my arm's just going to follow along for the ride. All right. So I'm just going to make a setup to the ball, nice and easy. And I'm just going to feel right hip go back, left hip go back, right hip back, left hip back. All right, and that way then I'm always moving away from the ball as opposed to moving up and into it. And that's really key. That's a really key lesson to start with. So right foot back, hit a few shots doing that, just get a feeling of the right hip being out the way, and then do a few shots with the left hip back, make a few swings like so, and then try to feel it in the swing. So right hip back, left hip back. Really feel that your pelvis moving away from the ball as opposed to moving up and into it. It will feel extreme, it will feel a bit over the top. All right, so just going to stand here like so, going to make a swing, so right hip back, left hip back. All right, and I'm pushing everything away, and that's the key thing. I'm not moving up into it, I'm not making that standing tall or losing my posture, I'm pushing away. All right, and that's really key. Right, okay, this one's not for the faint-hearted. Okay, please take your time with this one. Make sure the range is clear or you're in a safe position when you do this. But this is just to emphasize again and give you the feeling of moving away from the ball as opposed to moving up into the ball. All right. Now, one of the things that we can do, luckily, if you are lucky enough to be able to do this, is be able to walk. Okay, and one of the things that you can do is walk backwards, okay, and forwards. Okay, and nobody tells me how to do that. I've learned that myself through years of practice, luckily, since I've been a child. And what happens here is as I walk forward, my right hip goes forward. As I walk with my left foot, my left hip goes forward. But if I reverse that and I go left foot back, my left hip goes back and my right hip goes back. All right, so it's as simple as almost walking. I know it sounds silly, but getting that feeling of the right hip back, left hip back, same as I do when I'm walking, is very key. Now, we've all seen on videos and so on of the constant strike drill where people actually stand there and they hit one ball there and then they move up to the next one, move up that way and move up this way. Okay, the one that you very rarely see is actually them walking backwards. All right, and this is very important. So it's worth giving this one a try. You can tee it up. I haven't got tee pegs basically, that's why I'm having to do it off the floor. Again, you don't have to go hard and fast, but all you're going to do from here is you're going to basically just, as you swing the club back, right foot goes back. As you swing to hit the ball, left foot goes back. Right foot back to hit this one, left foot back. Right foot back, left foot back. This is just teaching you to always move away from the ball as opposed to moving up into the ball, and that's really key. All right, so let's give this one a go. So I'm going to go back, 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 and back. All right, give yourself a feeling of always moving away from the ball. All right, first one put me out because it took a divot. If it was on a tee peg, it'd be a heck of a lot easier, but it just gives you the feeling. It's not easy to do that, to be fair. It's not the easiest drill in the world, but it's worth giving it a pursuit, especially if you're a good enough golfer. It takes a bit of practice to do it, to be fair. So start ahead of the ball. You're going to swing back, 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 and through. And just going to get this feeling of always moving away from the ball, and that's really key. Give that one a go, I dare you. Okay, so thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it's been helpful for you again. So early extension's not great, not fun. Nobody likes to have that. And it's one of those things that you can take a bit of time to work on. If you do have mobility issues, go and see a physio. I see one every 6 weeks or so for my back. But go and do some stretching exercises, stretch those hamstrings out, stretch those glutes. Really work on getting that mobility back that way. But generally, if you can bend over or you can sit down, you've pretty much got the right bit of flexibility to be able to fix this yourself. So give these little exercises a try. If you have any questions about it, please comment below and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions that you have. If you'd like more of these sorts of videos, please, again, comment below for me. I'm trying to build this up as slowly as I can, but I want to make sure I'm getting the right information across to you guys that you want help with. So please comment below if there's any future videos that you want me to do. So thanks again for watching. Please remember to subscribe again as usual, and to like this video and share it with your friends as well. If there's somebody out there who you think has the same issues, then pass it on to them. So I'll catch you at the next one.